Welcome back to the Cricket Matters podcast, and today's subject is all about the Cricket Matters Athletic Performance System, which is a very fancy title, isn't it? James, before we dive into exactly what the Cricket Matters Athletic Performance Pyramid is, do you want to give us a bit of background about the origin, the story behind it, if you will?
Yeah, so I think if you listen to the podcast we did about the 10 components of fitness for cricket, I think that gives you a good idea of where it started in Australia and how we had to come up with the idea of defining the names of what the components were. But then we had to come up with a system of applying it on which things ranked in order. We touched on that basis, the idea of layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, where earn the right to be powerful, earn the right to have anaerobic capacity, which is short, sharp, intense bursts, and to be agile. But you've got to own the basics of mobility, stability, and balance and coordination first. But then there's an overarching theme to this, and this comes back to the system, because a lot of people in athletic development, whether it's any sports, they just, take a shotgun approach, shoot, and hope it works. But it doesn't breed consistent results, and it doesn't breed constant feedback and improvement, like Kaizen, the Japanese word for continual improvement, okay?
Kaizen,
we
I like
for
it.
this.
Dropping that in there.
It was in our blog the other day, actually, about the benefits of hiring a cricket coach. But this is what we're looking for. We're looking for this idea of, a system that we can go back to for anybody who comes with us. And it's not about doing everyone the same, giving everyone the same training plan, far from it. It's assessing them, seeing where they need, so we make less mistakes as coaches, but then we can find the weaknesses and errors or the technical deficiencies or in their movement capacity and their strength and their cardio, so we can help them become better athletes. So we have the performance pyramid, which is the 10 components of athleticism. But before that, preceding that, we have our pyramid, right? This is our kind of like pyramid of vitality almost, because health comes first. In everything that we do, we find that health comes first, particularly for cricketers, because cricket's a hard game on the body. They have to recover well. So I'll share my screen in terms of what you see as the performance pyramid. Let me know, Josh, when you can see it. For those on podcasts who are driving, please don't look at your screen while doing this. Whatever you do, there we go. Can you see it? So again, it's another pyramid. We like pyramids. We like hierarchies in what we're trying to do. So you can see with us now, when we start working with cricketers, we want to look at their health. What's their body composition? What's their likelihood of mortality? It sounds morbid. It really is in some respects, but we want to address these things, particularly with older cricketers. And then we're looking at their lifestyle needs, because you can't outrun a bad diet. You can't outrun bad habits if poor sleep is in play, if you're not getting hydrated well enough, or if you're not eating the right calories in that comes top of the pyramid. But we've got to look at all these different things first. And body composition, I would say, is the fastest way to improve performance for any cricketer out there. But yet it's the one that they least want to do time and time again.
Do you remember the, no names or anything, but we had a guy come to us a few years back who was wanting to, I think his goal was to do double body weight, 2 times body weight deadlift or squat or something like that. And we were like, okay, cool. Well, let's put you through the assessments first. And it came back that he had, what was it? He had sky high blood pressure or something. Do you remember? I think you worked with this guy. Do you remember, James? We were like, well, hang on. It's all great having this goal, but health comes first, mate. We think you might need to go to a doctor first, which is really important, right? Because if you don't assess your underlying health, you don't know where you're at, do you?
Yep. And it was a guy from Texas. It was a guy who was trying to enter a powerlifting competition when we were doing a lot of those type of athletes many, many, many moons ago. And he came to us with sky high blood pressure, resting heart rate of over 80. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And we said to him, hey, before you do anything, we can't work with you until you go and see a doctor. He went to see a doctor. They rushed him into emergency surgery the following day to have a heart bypass. That is what happened there.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Exactly.
Crazy, right? Yeah, and he came back to train with us actually 9 months later, saying, I want to focus on health. I don't want to focus on strength anymore. I want to focus on health now. So it is. We look at these things because there's underlying issues that may be present that we're not aware of, particularly, again, for the older cricketer, right, who's still trying to compete and still keep playing at the highest levels. whatever, whether it be club or even a lot of the master stuff we're doing with people now. So yeah, absolutely. So we look at the health side of things first, because a healthier athlete is a happier athlete, is a better performing athlete, right? And that's what we're looking here now. That's the middle first section here in terms of basic health. Then we got the pyramid, and we look at the performance, right, in terms of athleticism. Then we're looking at the stuff like how well they move, how fast they run, what's their endurance, what's their recovery like, how strong are they, these type of things, the sexy stuff that people always come to us for.
So this is where the 10 components come in, isn't it? This is the level of 10 components come in.
Absolutely. This is where we break it down into there. Now, we've also discussed that on the podcast before. Go and check it out if you haven't listened to it before. But only then do we start looking at nutrition when we've got these other pillars in play first, because nutrition is one of the hardest things to correct and do for any athlete, because everyone has their own unique ways of looking at things, doing things, like the foods they like, habits, etc., etc. There's so many different things, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach to nutrition. There's good basis and solid foundations, like we can all agree that we should eat more protein because it helps us recover faster and repairs the muscle tissue, helps us put on lean muscle, makes us feel fuller for longer. And then the rest of it comes down to personal preference and how we do things. So that is more complicated. So from a very 40,000 foot overview, this is the performance system in place. This is what we're looking at now. Now, we're not even talking about technical stuff with the cricketer. That falls in under the performance pyramid, if anything. And we will do a podcast about our approach to batting and, not just batting coaching, cricket coaching in general in future episodes. But the technical element of cricket falls under the performance aspect. And even then, nutrition comes on top of that after that, once we get those things right and once we're cooking on gas with those things.
Absolutely. And briefly, before we wrap up, do you want to just talk from more of maybe a coach's perspective? Well, this does apply to clients as well. It's like why it's important for us to have a system that we all follow.
Yeah, it comes back to the idea of again, when we were working as coaches and on our own, and I started building a team of coaches around us to develop and do the training side of things, we're all working on our own. We kind of roughly had the same ideas. Well, so I thought for a lot of the coaches, but it quickly transpired they didn't. So a lot of our athletes weren't getting the same level of service from all our coaches. They were great people. However, they were doing things in their own way, in their own style, which didn't adhere to an overall strategy. And the key thing for any athlete development is you want them all to be singing from the same hymn sheet when they're coaches to help this athlete improve. So, for example, we created the system with the high, the athletic performance pyramid, because we wanted all our coaches, our therapists, our cricket coaches even as well, not just strength coaches, to know what we're looking for, what we're trying to do. So it all means we're talking a common language, and the athlete, irrespective of whether they go and work with me, with you, Josh, or somebody else in our coaching setup, they have exactly the same experience. They go through the same format, same system. So we can all go together and come together when we have issues with an athlete, say, hey, we can come together and go, hey, this is what we're seeing. Oh, cool. Let's work on this. Or even more likely, it's a system that helps us improve and refine it over time, because it's an ever-evolving system of assessment, teaching, all this stuff, because we come down to the basics and we can all agree on the same things. So that's kind of why we do this and have a system for coaching at every step of the way, because it allows us to make better decisions, more informed decisions, and more consistent results with our athletes moving forward.
Exactly. That word is exactly what I was going to say, consistency, because what's the most important thing in training? Consistency. And as you say, whether I'm training them, you're training them, or one of somebody else that we work with, you get the same thing, wrapped up slightly differently, because we all have our own ways, but it's all about consistency.
It's the consistency of message as well, and that's what we see with a lot of coaches. A lot of cricketers struggle with the consistency of message from different coaches, right? You will go and see one coach and they're telling you to do one thing. You'll go and see another coach that's telling you to do another thing. Now, sometimes that's right, sometimes it's wrong. Whatever you do when it comes to cricket coaching, you've got to trust your gut feeling and what works for you. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't work. But you always should take the best bits of every coach and mold them to your style. And that's really important when it comes to your cricket development, okay? But for us as coaches in-house, we've got to make sure that we're all talking the same language and thinking on the same lines. Otherwise, it will confuse the athlete, when we're working with them. If they go to somebody else, that's fine. They got their own system. They'll be working with their own style of doing things. But for us in-house at Cricket Matters, me and you, Josh, got to speak the same language as do all the other coaches. So that's why we're trying to do is this consistency on the message. No matter if you work with me, Josh, or anybody else, they have that consistent message.
Exactly. So there we go, guys. That is the Cricket Matters performance system. That is it for today. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you would like our free training plan, then go to cricketmatters.com/train.